it is almost time. Thanks for everybody that is joining. See some attendees out there. Thank you, panelists, students. So awesome to have you tonight. We'll just give it another couple minutes, then we'll get started. All right, it is 6:30. So let me hit record. I always forget to do this when I guess it's recording. We're okay. All right, just kidding. All right, my name is Jamie Lusader, and I'm the CTO for La Cañada Unified. And joining me tonight, I have some amazing co-hosts for our session for parents and students. And so I'd love to go around and have everybody introduce themselves. Let's do what's your name, what's your role, and something that is something super fun for you, like a hobby or a random piece of information. Why don't we start with Mr. Paz, because I'm sure he'll have something good while everybody else thinks.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Paskowitz. I'm your instructional technology specialist for TK through 8. I get to work with all of the elementary and middle school kids, and Mrs. Lusader and Mrs. Staley. And something interesting about me, I'm really into home DIY these days, working from home. So I'm seeing all those little things that need to be fixed. So in my off time, in the evenings and the weekends, I'm fixing things.
Excellent. All right, Miss Staley, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay, and I am David's counterpart for 7th through 12th grade. I'm the technology integrationist to help the teachers not fix anything techie whatsoever, but to help them use the technology that we've got to better serve our students. So something interesting about me is that I grew up in La Cañada, and I haven't gone very far. I am still here. And that makes me excited to be here with you. Thanks.
Thank you. Isabella.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabella O. I'm a junior at LCHS, and something fun about me. I recently got into reading. I think I just needed a hobby outside of something on a screen. So yeah, that's something I've been doing lately.
I love that. Thank you. Sam, what about you?
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm on the Tech Council, and I mostly just help with student input and, contributing to our little projects. And a fun thing about me is I like playing games with my friends. I made some friends at St. Francis, and we've been talking a lot.
That's excellent. And I think Cole's just joining us, and also on the screen, this is Carla. She's from paper.co, and she's going to help us in just a little while as we talk about that as an option for how to get help with homework. Cole, you were just joining us as we were doing introductions. Do you want to tell us who you are and something fun about you or a hobby?
Yes, hello. Well, I'm Cole. I'm in 11th grade at LC, and a hobby I have is tennis.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, so now you know all the panelists. I want to tell you a little bit about how tonight's going to work. So we have 3 topics for you that we're going to share. And a lot of this came out of the student survey that we did kind of into first semester. And it was student teacher survey. And we learned a lot about what the needs and wants are from everyone. So we're focusing on 3 topics that we got from there. And the students contributed. So you're going to hear their solutions and ideas on these 3 topics. We're going to talk about monitoring academic progress and what that looks like. We're going to talk about how to get help for homework, and then we're going to talk about student motivation. So for tonight, if you have questions, please find the Q&A button across the bottom, and you're going to see that that's a place you can just post a question. So find that. And then we also have the chat where we are going to perhaps ask some questions. So let's practice in the chat right now. Can everybody that's in attendance, can you tell us if you're a student or a parent? And if you're a parent, what grades are your students in? And if you're a student, tell us what grade you're in. So everybody practice posting that in the chat for me right now so we can get to know who our audience is. Thanks, Selena. Nice to have you here. Hi again, Rachel. Thanks for being here. Hi, Yvonne. I hope Nicole's doing well. I need to hear from her and hear how school's been going. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Frank. Thank you, everyone. Hi, Stacy. Great, excellent. Thank you. Oh, excellent, David. Thanks for that. Showing your multiple roles. All right, I'm going to post for you in the chat a document. Thank you, Anna. This is what we're going to use to follow along tonight. So I want to make sure you have all of our notes and thoughts, and we're going to just kind of work through this document together. So I'll share some of that. And then again, as I mentioned, we have the Q&A, so you can find that and you can post questions anytime during our presentation. We'll probably try to answer some of them towards the end, but I'd love help from David and Lindsay, and students as well. You can monitor the Q&A. And if there's something you feel like you can answer, just take it and answer. And anything that feels like we should answer live, we'll do that together at the end. So we'll save time for questions. Excellent. And again, thank you to Carla for being here and helping us out. We're really excited to have you. Okay. So as I mentioned, our objectives for tonight are to cover these 3 topics: academic progress, getting help for homework, and we want to definitely share some tech tools that will help with these topics, but also some low tech things. We're going to cover a lot. We wanted, if you have questions about paper.co and exactly what that is and how that can help students and parents, we want to talk about that. And then, as I mentioned, posting your questions in the Q&A box. Okay, so let's start with our first topic. This one is about monitoring student academic progress. And there are just a few tools for this that we want to make sure you all know about. So we have the Aries Parent Portal, and that's where you can log in, and this is for grades 7 through 12 and check on grades. And then we also have, and again, that's only the upper grades. And I want to just make sure everybody knows the rationale behind that. I think there's a certain level of stress that comes along with checking your grades all the time. And it definitely shifts the focus from learning to worrying about the grades. And we're going to talk about that also tonight. So I really think developmentally, it's so important for it just to be our older students. I do recognize that during distance learning, it would have been, an asset to have that for the younger students, but we really just think what it emphasizes is just not quite appropriate for the little ones. And so that's why that's not turned on. We also have some Google Classroom features, and we're going to demo this in a second, but using the to-do list for students, this is super important. And then we also have the Google Classroom Guardian summaries. And Lindsay will either email out or link here in the document the how-to guide for this, because she definitely can help you if you're not using the Google Classroom summaries, how to use that. And a note about that, if we were going to get to this later, but I'll say it now. Google Classroom Guardian summaries are what they are. They're summaries of the week. So they're not a way to kind of get ahead or anticipate what's going on. That's what you would use the Google Classroom to-do list for. So that's just an important distinction. The summaries are kind of like, how the week is gone. And then the classroom features are planning ahead. Okay, let's transition to students, because I think they have some really good ideas for how to monitor student progress. So Isabella or Cole or Sam, any ideas or insights on this that you want to share?
Yeah, I can share a few. Ms. Luceder. So like we're trying to focus on, I guess, putting all the effort in for that letter, just that one grade. But I guess you want to be mindful about how much you're focusing on it and really your mental health around that. It can be very unhealthy just to keep checking it every single hour or however many times you check it. So that's why I try to check it usually like 3 times a week, especially if I know when a test is going in or an assignment I think I did well on or something I'm a little concerned about. But you want to monitor how many times you're checking that, because that can be pretty detrimental as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. There are some classes that teachers are giving less and less assignments. So one bad grade can greatly shift your grade. So if you just keep checking, it's just going to keep weighing down on you. And there's always going to be opportunities to fix it. Especially if you're on good terms with your teacher, you participate and you have your camera on. So not being worried about like a B or something like that is definitely important as well. You'll survive and you'll also be able to raise the grade.
Yeah, just something I wanted to add. Like, I definitely agree with what Sam and Cole were saying. I think, especially this year, like students taking care of mental health is such a priority. Just considering the fact that we can't see friends, like we don't have the events, we don't have school dances and everything. So I think just checking in that way. And then just small things such as like writing everything down. I think that's something that I really learned how to I really needed just writing down all of your tasks, all of your homework, just to make sure you're not forgetting anything. I think leaving it up to your brain can sometimes like leave you hanging. So I think writing it down is really helpful and efficient.
Yeah, and I writing down is good. You will remember it. And if you're not, like, if you don't have very good handwriting like me, and you're not going to be able to read it the next day, Google Classroom has a really cool feature called like To Do, and it just shows you everything that you have for the week, and then for next week, it also shows you your missing assignments. So that can also help you keep organized.
That's great. Would one of you be able to pull that up and show us? Lindsay and I will talk a little bit about some tech team ideas, but would one of you be able to demo the to-do list for us? That would be incredible. And I'll make sure you have permission to share. Just let me know when you're ready. So I'd love Lindsay to talk a little bit about some of the ideas we have regarding conversation starters. And I think this comes from listening to students and parents talking about the struggle of conversations around grades. So we want to give you some ideas and an article that may help, but just some of our thoughts on this process.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. So I come at this as a teacher, as a colleague, as a peer of all of your children's teachers. I've taught everything in the district, 5th through 12th grade English. And so I have a really vested interest in these dinner time conversations around the dinner table about how to best use Aries for both our students' mental and mental health and well-being, but also to get the most out of this tech tool that we have. The first thing that I want to talk about is how I'd love for parents to have a conversation with their children about what is acceptable and appropriate Aries behavior. And I think it's not only beneficial for the students themselves to hear this kind of conversation coming from their parents, but of course it's also a reminder for the parents themselves to keep themselves in check. It's really easy to go down the dark hole of checking Aries, students, am I right? Every single hour, or within 2 hours of taking a test, as if a teacher could grade 180 tests well that quickly. And so I would like to pose that it's not even healthy to check Aries once a day. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule. There are certain students that it's a great idea to check together once a day. But for most of the students that we have, 7th through 12th grade, once a day is not necessary. Once a week, a couple of times a week, if you really need to fix that edge. But for parents, you don't need to necessarily do this if you know your child is doing this amount for themselves. And so if you come to a conclusion as a family, I promise not to look over your shoulder and look at Aries on your behalf more than once a week. If you promise to look at least once a week and tell me if you need help. Along those same lines, and Sam, you actually brought this up, is discussing different teachers' approaches to grading. Sam is starting to realize that while some of his teachers post maybe 80 grades a semester, which is on the extremely atypical high end, we also have some teachers on the atypically opposite side of the spectrum that are only giving out 10 to 15 grades for a whole semester. And then there's a whole wide range of in between. Somewhere in the middle is probably the perfect amount for everybody. But our teachers run the gamut and they have their own teaching philosophies that I encourage you to ask them about. But if you have this conversation with your child about, okay, what am I supposed to be looking at? When does your teacher normally post grades? I only posted grades on Friday afternoons. I never touched Illuminate or Aries until Friday afternoons, once all of the instruction and the grading for the entire week was completed. So my students knew that there was nothing to check until Friday afternoons. Now that I am a parent and I know how ruining a weekend could possibly go, I might change that when I go back to the classroom. But the idea still stands that I only put grades into Aries once a week. So knowing what your child's teacher, the 5 or 6 of them do that is different from each other, will help you understand what you're going to be looking for in Aries. And then my last idea, I think I said this the last time we were with you last semester, but encourage your children to advocate for themselves. Don't wait until the 11th hour, until the semester is over, to ask their teachers what they can do to bring up a grade. If you've bombed a test, own it and respectfully email your teachers and say, didn't do so well. Would you be up for if I redo it? If I redo it well, would you consider looking at it again after meeting with me? I'll come to office hours. These are the ways that I'm planning to fix my ways, and see if there's anything that can be done. I was telling a student just today, because of your respectful and kind email, I appreciate this so much. I am going to bend over backward to help you in what you need. And I think most teachers agree to that sentiment. So please encourage your children to write for themselves instead of you doing it on their behalf. Teachers love hearing from their own students because they know them better and they know the material better and what's at stake. And so the more you can encourage your children to do that, the better for everybody.
And my final thought for this before we move on to the kids showing you the to-do list in Google Classroom, we're using a resource called the Distance Learning Playbook for Parents. And we used a version of this to set up our teachers to be successful with distance learning as we started the school year. And we did some PD and have attended a conference based on this work. It's quite excellent. So there's a link here for you to the book, but I pulled out some things out of here that were related to this topic and I thought were really good about having conversations. So remember that it's super important to also talk about the strengths. It's really, really easy to look at Aries or look at a report card and see what's not perfect and to see what needs improvement. But imagine if you reframe the conversation about like, wow, you did really well here. What led you to do well in this area? How could you reproduce that for another subject? And here are some questions for you. Were you successful there because you had more time to study? Was the subject more interesting? I love this idea that, errors are opportunities to learn. And so celebrating them. And so the book suggested, can you make a family habit of celebrating the best error of the day? And then again, you're owning those mistakes and learning them. Something we do in our tech team meeting every single week is we do wins, fails, and lessons learned and shout outs. And that's how we start our meeting. And we just really work through, those moments that were important, whether big or small, and kind of what mistakes we make. Sometimes I have like some real doozies and the work I do, like a mistake goes to, 7,000 email addresses. So I sometimes have some super big fails that I learn from, but it's important that we own those. And I think that's a really interesting way to take a look at this. So I have 2 resources from the book for you. One is a document on setting a learning goal. And then another one is about a self-report card. And I thought this was super interesting. And it just, I know what I'm supposed to be learning. I know what success looks like. I know what tools are available for me. So what we're discovering as we kind of created this night and worked through this, that there are students that have these skills already. They know how to navigate school and they know how to win the game of school. But what we're really interested in is, are they developing the skills to be lifelong learners? And for those students who don't know the game yet, what tools and supports can we give them to get better and to be a stronger learner? So these are just some resources for you. Students, do one of you have Google Classroom ready to go? Isabella? Okay, great. Let me stop sharing and I'll give you permission and you can walk us through that. So thank you.
Oh, it says host disabled participant screen.
All right. Try again now, please.
Okay, yes. Okay, so this is basically what you see when you go into Google Classroom. Obviously, beginning of the week, coming back from a long weekend, like teachers are just starting to get assignments in. So like, let's say for biology. So this is kind of your upcoming, this is like, at least for me, like the first thing I see beginning of the week, like what you have due, when, like what dates due, the time. And it kind of depends on from teacher to teacher, like let's say here. So it's like some teachers will put times, other teachers won't. It kind of just depends. But I think this is helpful just because you kind of see a timeline of your week almost. And you kind of see like what days are you're going to have to turn stuff in, when you're going to have to study, when you have to allocate time to, get your work done. So I think Google Classroom has really been helpful this year. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we
Do
just.
you mind if I show, sorry, really quick, the
No, go right ahead.
to-do and the calendar
yeah.
feature?
Yeah, please. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. Should be showing the screen, right?
We can see it.
Okay. So yeah, if you are in your classroom, I don't have too much work right now, but if you click the little bar up here, you can click to do. It'll show you what you have due this week. So I have 3 things for forensics, which is one of my classes that is on the higher end, putting a lot of assignments. And then next week I have 2 things for English, which are on the lower end of the assignments. And then it shows you you're missing. And as you can see, I have a couple missing, but don't worry. They're not important. And then done, you can also check here all the stuff that you have done. And then the calendar as well. This shows you, if you are more like visual, you can see the day that it's due on like a calendar format, and you can go week by week, and it's pretty useful.
That's great. Thank you so much. And we point this out because it's important, budgeting your time. And again, one of those conversations when you're talking about strengths versus weaknesses or needs with grades, when you find one that your student or a student yourself, if you're watching this right now, which one you did well on, try to analyze why. Did you have more time? Were you more well rested that day? Were you more interested in the subject? Like, start to analyze why perhaps you got one better grade over another, and that will help you with your improvements. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about getting help with homework. So we're going to switch to our second topic. And we have tech tools, we have student ideas, we have our ideas, and then we have Carla here to show us the benefits of paper and what we have available for our students. So students, why don't we start with you this round? Why don't you tell us your ideas on getting help with homework? What are some of your strategies?
Well, one that's not 100% reliable is texting your friends if they might understand something. But also paper.co, I've used it a couple times when I write essays. The essay tool is super, super useful. You send in your essay and then they take like a day to review it and then they send feedback. And although it would be nice if they like really redid it for you, they tell you what needs to be fixed so that you do it, you learn more. And it's definitely improved my writing. It's so paper.co. Also, my sister uses it for math. It's definitely helped her as well. They have some pretty good tutors.
Thank you. Isabella or Cole?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I learned to utilize this year was office hours and even just emailing teachers. I think definitely in the beginning, like I was so scared of like talking to teachers in person and everything. But I think not only does it provide help on your classwork, but also I think it just gives you a way to communicate and interact with your teachers, because just in class, teachers are just staring at sometimes just like blank boxes. So I think by going into their office hours, asking questions, even just asking about their day, it really like sets you apart almost. And as a junior, we're always thinking about that, just about letters of rec and everything. So I think just attending office hours, it's been really helpful. You get like one-on-one conversation and feedback from your teacher. So I've learned to use it a lot.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, going off what Isabella said about office hours, it's really helpful, especially in these 40-minute Zooms. There's not a lot of time for questions. If there is, the teacher kind of has to minimize a response when they do give one. So it's very good for following up on a conversation or other questions you had. I noticed some other teachers like to utilize other services like Band. I know my AP Studio uses that. So that's just a kind of chat network application. So it's much easier and faster to rely on your teachers using those services.
And I just have one more comment about, it's not really about getting help with like the content, but more with time management. So now that you don't really have to go to school and like break up your day as much, you can space out your homework a little bit more instead of having to do it all like at once. I like to sort of do it throughout the day, sort of. If I know I have a class that's more independent, I know if the homework is a little bit shorter, I'll do my English homework during whatever class, and then it's just easier to split up your homework throughout the day rather than all cram it in, because it is also easier now to procrastinate until 11:50 when you have to finish that worksheet. So doing it earlier in the day is also easier.
That's great. I just want to highlight that Cole put together this poster for us, and we'll make sure, again, it's linked here for you, but something, students, please review this, and parents, review this with your students. But here kind of our steps, like when you're stuck, here's what you can do. First of all, ask questions in class, but we know that you're not always thinking of what you might need help with then. Sending a chat message or an email to your teachers, checking in with a live tutor at paper.co, and that's available 24/7. So in all of your subjects, if you haven't checked it out, please do. Phoning a friend. We also have peer tutoring available through the Wellness Center, so you can email there, and then visiting your teachers through office hours. So those are the very concrete ways we have ready for you to get help. And then Carla, I didn't know if there's anything you kind of wanted to add, or I think Sam kind of said the best thing we possibly could have said about paper.co. I think that was an amazing endorsement, but maybe just tell us a little bit about the Socratic method. I think Sam kind of touched on that, and that would be really important for our audience to hear a little bit more about.
Yeah, of course. First off, thank you everyone for having me. I'm Carla, Student Engagement Coordinator here at Paper, and we're very excited to hear that students are already using it at the district. To tell you a little bit more about the Socratic method, this is what our tutors are trained, how our tutors are trained to help your students. So this is where instead of providing students with the answers right away, what they will do is ask the students questions that will guide them to the right answer. And what this helps do is for students to really think critically about the questions that they're asking, the steps that they're solving to work out the different problems that they're working on, and really solidify the concepts that they're working on so that they can apply them independently on their own assignments. So for students that have already experienced what it's like to interact with our tutors, they will probably have noticed that, the tutors will ask the questions and they won't kind of give you, just or leave you hanging to know, well, was I right or not? They will guide you to the right answer, but instead they'll really help you think about the concepts that you're asking about.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. And we have access to the transcripts. So that part's really nice. So we can kind of oversee everything. And it's a little bit of quality control on our side just to make sure Paper is the right partner for us and delivering the type of education that we want. But I mean, I really have to say, I've seen evidence of students having that really productive academic struggle of working through the problem and not just getting the answer. And I think they learn from it much more than it was just Googling the answer and kind of looking it up and moving on. I think that is so important. And we've been happy to see that with the product so far. And then if anybody has questions or other specific things about Paper, please post them in the Q&A. We can definitely dive into that. But I just want to make sure everybody knows that this is a resource that's available specifically for those times where you're stuck and you're alone and you just, you don't have that friend to call. You can't get a hold of your teacher. Maybe it's late. This is actually why we got this service for this school year, because we knew the burden was going to be high on our teachers to try to answer questions at all hours a day. They're planning, they're grading, they're trying to figure out what's next, because every day is a new adventure. And we just wanted to make sure there was a resource so students were never alone and could get help when they needed it. Okay, our last little bit for distance learning. This was actually Lindsay's idea. We chatted about was back to tech team ideas, was tackling the hardest part of your homework first. So Sam was talking about how time can be spaced out a little bit, and you might have a way to kind of spread things out. But if you know which one's going to be more challenging, tackle that earlier in the day when you're fresh, or when it's more likely that you're going to be able to access your teacher. So think about that subject that does cause you a little bit more grief, and know that don't wait for that one to the very end. Get that one out of the way, and you'll actually have a much better day. Or have an opportunity to find a friend who's still awake who can help you. But again, paper is always there for you. So that was kind of our one idea for that. And then out of the distance learning playbook, I discovered there was this really nice chart in the book about study skills. And again, these are things I think we assume all students know how to do, but I wanted to make sure this list was here for you. And Lindsay had this really great idea that when you're a student, or as a parent helping a student, maybe there's 2 or 3 of these study skills that you use all the time. But why not vary them up? Why not pick a new one to try, or find out which ones work the best with certain subjects? So I listed all of them here for you. There's 21 of them that came out of the Parents Distance Learning Playbook. And just again, take a look at these and see which ones might work best for a particular subject, or switch up your routine and try something new. So these are all ways or strategies to help you study and be stronger in your subjects. Okay, I think this is probably our biggest topic of the evening and most complicated, and we have the most resources for you. So I want to make sure we're right on time, right on time in terms of our goals for tonight, to kind of spend about 15 minutes per section. So we're going to stay on track with that, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So I see that a few of you have been posting questions, so thank you so much. There are actually a couple for paper. So let me pause there before we go. So Susanna was asking about math, and maybe we could just spend a time. Carla, thank you for answering that. Maybe we could just spend a minute talking about that live, because I think it's worth the conversation. So Susanna asked, how do students submit math problems for help in paper.co?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not sure if it's possible for me to share my screen.
Yeah, please.
Perfect. Okay, so I can do a little demonstration of what the platform looks like for students, but just a little bit of what I mentioned here in the response for the parent who asked that question. We do have different tools that the students can use whenever they're asking. We know that there are some questions that are just difficult to be asked. For example, for math, if they're working on an equation or anything like that, we do have different tools that I'll show right now, like picture upload and the virtual whiteboard. So I believe I need permission to.
Let me stop sharing. There you go. You should be able to take over now.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is what the platform looks like for students. This is what they'll see as soon as they join or log into their account. So here, if they have any specific questions about a specific topic, they'll see their all of the subjects that they're taking on their personalized dashboard. So if they have, let's say, a question about math, they can go to that section and click on Ask a Tutor. Again, because this is personalized, instead of math, for example, it might say calculus or geometry or algebra, whatever course your student's taking. So here, just to give you an example, I'm going to join a chat with one of our tutors. And again, because sometimes it is a little bit difficult and challenging for students to know how to phrase their questions, we do have different tools. For example, if they need to type it, they can type, or they can use picture upload, which they can access by clicking here on send file. So this is where they can upload any screenshots or pictures that they have of their assignments. Very helpful, again, for those math or science projects or assignments that they might be working on. And we also have the virtual whiteboard, which they can use, again, to show any visual representations of what they're working on. We see that this one's specifically useful for math assignments, so they can really work step by step with the tutors. As soon as they, for example, here I'm going to do a demonstration with a quick equation. So if whenever they submit it, the tutor will be able to see it. Here I'm going to submit. And on top of that, so that the conversation can be a little bit more, can run a little bit more smoothly with the tutors can also add edits onto the pictures and drawings that the students are sending. So for example, they can use different colors to mark or do arrows or really work the step-by-step. So it's a little bit easier for students to grasp the concept and really know the step-by-step.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And as I posted in the chat, students can access this through ClassLink and just click on paper.co, the little app, and hit sign in with Google, and you should be in. I definitely encourage you just to pop in and say hi to a tutor. They're totally fine with that. Just say, just want to see how this worked, or maybe you have a homework question, give it a try. And you can also create study groups with friends. So if you want to plan a study session in there with friends, it would be just you and your friends. And then if you wanted to invite a tutor in, you just click ask a tutor and they'll join your session and help you. So again, another way to get help with homework and have a little connection with your peers. So yeah, Mandy, paper, where the district is paying for it right now. So it's a service that we're subscribing to make sure all students in grades 4 through 12 have access to a tutor for this school year. Yes, you're welcome. Great. Okay, let's talk about managing motivation. And I think the student ideas on this are just so good. I interviewed a sixth grader and got her opinion, so I'll those are on there for you as well. But I'd love to have Sam and Isabella and Cole tell us your ideas about student motivation, because this is one I think that is a challenge with or without a pandemic, with or without distance learning. This is something that we can talk a lot about.
So earlier we were having a meeting and I brought up getting out of bed. So I think that is one of the things that is probably the most important to just starting your day. I know it's tempting, your bed's comfortable and you don't have to get up to go to English class, but definitely it's, for me, getting out and getting into like my workspace here, it helps me with accountability, especially keeping my camera on. My phone right here, but the camera, I'm not going to be looking down at my phone the whole time. That would, I mean, the teacher wouldn't like that. So back to getting out of bed. I have my fifth period class. There's always some kids who are laying in their bed. The teacher always looks at them like, come on. Like, so not only is it not very good for your own motivation, because you can't type an essay laying down sideways, but the teacher kind of senses that you don't really care and that you're not really invested in the class. So earlier we were talking about being on good standings with your teacher, so they might be able to help you with your grades or something like that. I'm pretty sure the teachers are more willing to help you if you show that you're engaged and that you're not taking a nap.
Thank you so much. What else?
For me, it's also what Sam said. It's getting yourself in that routine of, I'm going to school now. I'm going to go sit at my desk or wherever I usually work. So that really gets me in my school space. So yeah, creating that routine that's able to be repeated. You go have breakfast, do all your stuff, and then you get on class. If you keep repeating that, I mean, different for all individuals, of course, might get tiresome, but for me, that definitely helps me keep in the rhythm of, I know what I need to do.
That's great.
Yeah, something kind of just building off of that. I think having routines really important, and also we're taking all of our classes from our rooms or from our homes. So I think even having a change of scenery or change of environment is really important. I know a lot of my teachers don't mind if I'm outside taking class, just as long as, I'm focused on everything. But I think, if we were at school, we would be walking around the halls, going to lunch with our friends and everything. So, just even taking class from, the dining room table, as long as you're kind of moving around and even standing or sitting and everything, I think that's been really helpful. Just motivation and being focused in class.
So when I interviewed a sixth grader this last week in prep for our session, I asked her, how do you stay motivated? And she said she likes to, take a break by going out for a walk or a run. So to kind of just change things up. She talked about having a good space for learning. So making sure you have everything you need ready to go. So your charger, your books, a place to write your notes or type them. And I specifically asked her how she deals with distractions. And she said that she likes to set little goals for herself. Like, if I could do all of these things, then I get to do this. And that's what she's figured out as a way to keep herself going. And I thought that was really insightful. So again, having a schedule or setting little goals, little milestones. And once you do all these things, then you get something at the end. Yeah, Lindsay.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that all of these ideas seem so obvious, but they're not, because even as grown-ups, we don't want to do them when it comes time to do them. Think about yourself in the last in-person conference you were at. It's the worst when they make you get up and move around or talk to another person, because all we want to do is sit back and receive the information, right? And our students are the exact same way. And so if we encourage them as parents and teachers to literally get up, it forces the blood to move to different body parts, maybe back up to the brain instead of to our behind or our stomach if we just had lunch. And it's really important to keep this in mind and to force ourselves to do it. So even though these suggestions seem so obvious, of course they're obvious, but we just don't do them. So bringing them back to the front of our brain and bringing them back into our conversations daily with each other, either as peers or as parents and children, it'll help everybody out.
And I have something about what I like to do, just to get to know my teachers a little more. Sort of motivation, I guess, but getting to class a little early, it can just make sure you're on time. I usually get to talk to my teachers for 5 minutes before class. They're always complaining that, I really love you guys, but I'm never going to get to see you because we're never going to be in person. So getting to talk to them a little bit about how your day was and like what you had for lunch, it's nice. And it's just nice to get to talk to like your teacher.
When I used to teach English at the high school also, after Lindsay was there, I was there teaching English. She was at the elementary. And I would share with my students that the secret to success in college is the professor knowing your name. Like, that is a game changer. And I think Sam's kind of onto something. I think it is about motivation and making connections and feeling excited to be at school is building those relationships. And I think that's awesome. Okay, some tech tips for this. Calendar.google.com that you got to see is, inside Google Classroom, you have access to the calendar to kind of see everything. This is a really great tool. You can put fun things on it. I just recently created a tech team calendar and I put everybody's birthdays on it and I put our work anniversaries. So the day everybody was hired, I put some funny things about Star Wars. So again, they're just random things that pop up, but it adds a little bit more fun and it is motivational to kind of like, what else is going to be on today's agenda aside from all the meetings. There's sometimes some fun Easter eggs in there. So using a calendar, I think, is great. Again, there's something very motivational of putting something on the calendar, like having a plan, like you're going to be able to go do this on this day, whatever that is. And again, we're in extraordinary times where you can't plan as many fun things, but you can plan some things. So another tool I want to offer is Google Keep. So keep.google.com is a great way to make lists, and students and parents, you could do this together. I have lists with my husband, whether it's a shopping list or, planning our Christmas presents, like you can collaborate on them. I used it when I went on the band field trip a few years ago. I created one for our itinerary and I shared it with family so they would knew where I was every single day. So Google Keep is a great way to kind of make to-do lists. But I also want to emphasize the importance of paper. I love having a notebook. So I have this notebook with me at all times. I even took a picture of it. Let me scroll down and show you because I didn't know if you'd be able to see it. These are my tools for success. My notebook, I'm on my fourth one since I switched from taking digital notes to paper notes. So I use these books, and inside, what I love about this particular notebook is that it has the months across the top with the days, and you just circle the month and the day that your notes are taken on. And I always put a fun sticker on it, so it always changes up. And then I have my favorite pencil. This is an automatic sensor pencil. So it's a pencil, but you never have to sharpen it. I love it very much. And then my other go-to, how I keep organized and kind of keep my motivation up is I love crossing things off the to-do list. And this is just me. You have to find out what your thing is, but this is my thing. I found these square Post-it notes, and every day I write out what my meetings are. And then what are the things that I just have to get done that day? And I usually put too many, like there really should only be 5, not 10. But these things down here on the bottom are all the things I kind of had to do that day. And this was in my notebook. So I just flipped back and I found like, oh, October 6th on a Tuesday, I was way overloaded and I had a lot to do. But I got a lot of it done. And so this is how I don't lose the day. I make this every day. Either it's the first thing I do when I get into the office, or it is what I do the night before. And that's going to guide my day. And for me, this works really, really well. So I have a favorite pen. I cut things down. I have a favorite pen, a favorite pencil, my headphones. I have a Slinky on my desk because I like to play with that when I'm, in a meeting, just to kind of keep my focus. So again, whatever is going to motivate you, for me, it is the to-do list. I love that very much. So again, I also linked for you some planners on Etsy just to get ideas of, you can make your own little digital organizer to kind of map out what your to-do list is, but there's also some pretty cheap ones you can buy that are kind of fun and support some artists. And then there are also some really cool habit tracker apps. So again, something that you can, if you would like to go digital, you can do that. So those are just some tech tools to kind of keep track of your work and build in motivation. And then we're at 7:15, which I wanted to save time for questions, but I think it's worth spending 5 minutes here to talk about some of the ideas related to motivation. And so again, the students gave you those quick and easy do this now pieces. And we want to talk a little bit about the long-term motivation. So Lindsay and David, jump in anytime here. I'll just start and we can just kind of dialogue here. I think one of the biggest things we're talking about with motivation is this shift from the extrinsic motivation, kind of being motivated just by the good grades, to the intrinsic motivation where it's producing high quality work or the actual learning, which again, this is not overnight. This is something you have to commit to. And I can remember the exact switch I had when this changed for me. Like it was a moment in time where like lightning struck and I decided like I was going to be a better student. Like I remember exactly where I was standing. I was happened to be at Palmcrest because I was working there at the YMCA, and a coworker said something and I was just like, yeah, I guess I could do that too. I don't know what it was, but it was just that moment in time I was ready to be a better student. And that's where it changed for me. And I cared a little bit more. So again, it may not happen for a while, but just knowing the difference I think is important. And so we have some ideas for how to think about this. So for parents, when you're thinking about the words you use, like really, really understand the value. As we talked about earlier, if you're only talking about grades with your students and how to you want them to bring them up, that's a very, important message you're sending, but also think about, are you working on the grade? Or are you working to learn? Those are two very different experiences. And then for students, really think about what can I gain from this class, this lesson or the experience? And it may not be your favorite subject. And it may be that you're tired and it's the end of the day and you're not having the best year because of all of these circumstances. But I know if you try, you can find something positive about it, whether it's I'm learning how to do something I don't like and I'm doing it with a smile. Like that could be what you get out of it. It also could be that I'm learning that this is a class that it's important to pay attention to details. That could be what you get out of it. Like you just do your best to try to find something positive in that experience, whether or not you like the subject or anything. I think that will help shift you towards this more intrinsic motivation. And then the next idea I have for you is just believing in your abilities. This is huge. There's research that shows when a teacher tells their students they believe in them, they do better academically. Like it's proven. It's the craziest science. And I think parents can do this and students, you can do this too. Like believe in yourself, like you are capable. And for some of you, it will take a lot more work to do the same thing that maybe you see your peer doing easier, but you can still pull it off. And again, ask for help when you need it or find those supports, but really just believe in yourself and ask your parents to believe in you and challenge your teachers. Like you can do this. It does make a huge difference and it makes a significant impact. So, we talked about developing habits, finding those study skills that work for you. Lindsay wants to share an idea that is like one of those immediate, you can do this now to make a difference. Will you share your connection partners idea?
Of course. Thank you. I wanted to kind of bridge the gap between the students' immediately doable ideas like stand up or get out of bed or get dressed, and with Jamie's idea of we all would love our children, our students, to be intrinsically motivated to learn the material instead of just worrying about getting A's, right? And so my idea comes from making your tangible goals public. You can tell yourself that you want to lose 10 pounds, but it all of a sudden becomes a little bit more serious and necessary if you put on Facebook that you want to lose 10 pounds. All of a sudden it's out there for the world to question you. How is your diet going? Have you exercised today? And that's the same thing that our students could use. We have this idea of creating connection partners, and the original idea and what we added here in the blue partners is just to connect, to have FaceTime with another person where you can simply chat. But to bring that farther with the academics is, I want to stand up every fifth period. It's the exact period that I don't want to stand up the most. Therefore, fifth period connection partner, make me stand up. Make me, listen to you in private chat after private chat if I am not standing for all of fifth period block day, or whatever the case may be. But making some kind of goal public with a partner or a small group. By teams, I don't mean like 6 of your closest and dearest friends. I'm talking like maybe 2 other people. Then the goal becomes immediately more of a SMART goal, which leads to number 2. By tangible and reachable goal, I don't mean I'm going to get all A's this semester. That's really lofty for some of our children, some of our students. By that, I mean, I'm going to get up and go touch a doorway in between each class period. I am going to post something in the chat, or like Sam said, I'm going to go show up to each of my classes 3 minutes early to say hello to my teacher. I'm going to make sure that teacher knows my name and uses it in a positive way today. Saying something like that is immediately reachable and doable. And of course, it leads to not only more participation and better academic success, but being more intrinsically motivated.
Excellent. And then my last one here, so we save time for questions, is here's an exercise about developing those healthy habits. So I have the article linked for you, but just as a quick overview, I really like this. What you would do is, as a family or as a student, you would decide like, what are the words you would like somebody else to describe you as? If somebody was introducing you, what would the words you'd want them to use? And for me, I was like, oh yeah, reader, hiker, cook, learner, and teammate. Like that's what I want to be known as. And then you go through the exercise. Okay, what does that look like? How are you those things? So I read for fun every day. I'm always looking for new outdoor adventures. I like to study like how to hike a little bit more safely if I'm going out by myself. I love new recipes and sharing it with my family. So I have a private chat where we post like, what we're eating, and it's really fun. And then I also try to find topics at work to help my team. Like that's what I'm always, sorry, I have a little typo there. It's what I'm always looking for. So you kind of work through that exercise of like, what does that look like? And then apply this to maybe something that you want to do. So whether it's being a better student or being somebody who enjoys reading more than maybe you do now, or what does it look like to be a strong learner? And then what qualities would that person have? So having a space to study, I showed off, my favorite pen and my favorite notebook, knowing how to get organized. I ask questions. I list out all the work that I have to do. So again, you visualize and start to work towards those habits. This makes it very concrete. So it's not, trying to solve this, kind of crazy thing of like, how do I do better at school? It's you pick one part of it and work through developing those habits. So that's our idea. And again, there's an article here for you to show you how to do that. And then our last idea related to this is, Lindsay had talked about this earlier, is really setting those goals. So this comes from the distance learning playbook, and it's making goal setting a family activity. So whether students, you do it with a partner or a friend, this also can be a family activity where, one idea in the book was that you keep a jar in a central location full of change, and everybody just kind of keeps throwing their spare change in it. And you have one thing that's going to go to, whether it's buying something new for the house, whether it's, doing a dinner or anything like that. Like what's a family fund and something that you could do with that. There's also setting a personal health goal as a parent and then demonstrating progress towards that to your students so they can see you setting a goal and modeling what that looks like. Because again, a lot of these things we may do and just not talk about. And it's just so important to model that. I think about the lessons that I learned from my family that they didn't, set out to teach me, but things that I watched and saw. And, think about that as parents, like, how can you be very deliberate about those lessons without lecturing all the time? It's just you're showing that. And then the last one here is setting a monthly challenge. So each member of the family picks a goal, and then you just share out each week. How are you doing on that goal? Whether it's, I want to read a certain number of books, I want to eat more vegetables, I want to get a certain number of steps this week. But again, as a family, choose an individual goal that's going to help you improve and then work towards it. So those are our ideas around the topics of monitoring academic progress, getting help with homework, and motivation. So we'd love to take any questions that you have. You can please post them in the chat. And while you're thinking about that, and post our Q&A, I also have a definition about motivation here for you. And then if you scroll down past my crazy photos, I have two sets of questions to help with conversations in the home. So these are things for you to look at later. This is a set of 7 questions to ask yourself or ask a student. You would ask your student about how to work through a challenge you're facing. So to really build that independence to overcome challenges. And the second set I think are amazing. These are questions to ask about, rather than tell me why you failed that test, I just checked Aries, as the first thing you say to your kid that day after school, versus tell me something weird that happened this week. What's that little thing that kind of sticks out in your mind? Or what piece of information did you learn this week? Again, another way to have conversations. And I would think these will lead to more than one-word answers if you have a teenager at home. That's my gift for you. All right, let's take some questions. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you panelists for amazing conversation and ideas. I think this was really, really helpful. And audience, it's now your turn. What can we tell you a little bit more about, or what questions do you have? Thank you, Mandy. All right, we're reading, Selena. Thank you for this. Oh. So for our attendees, we had a comment posted from one of our attendees, and she just is sharing how it did work to go to office hours and talk to the teacher, and it did make a difference. So student testimony about how important it is to kind of get over that fear and find a way to connect with your teachers. That's fantastic. And I also want to put out there that if you have ideas, or, if students that are on the session with us now or that are watching later on YouTube, if you have ideas of what works for you, please email me and share them. I'll put my email here in the chat. We are always trying to gather ideas because your stories are the ones that can make a difference. So we have some upcoming projects that you may be interested in. Isabella, Cole, and Sam are also on Tech Council with me. And so we meet every couple of weeks and we talk about challenges and solutions for our high school and how to improve it. And one of the things we're working on right now is a virtual IRC to how to bring back that space where the students felt a place to connect with other peers and with tutors and with the librarians. And that doesn't exist right now in distance learning. So how do we bring that space back virtually? So we're working on that project. But if you have other ideas for innovations or anything that you feel like would be an improvement, we would definitely love to hear from you. So send me a note. We can do a quick hangout and chat about it or anything like that. So open invitation to share your ideas for improvement. Yvonne, I see your question. So 3rd through 6th grade teachers, yeah, they do have office hours. Thank you, Lindsay, for answering that. Yeah, those should be set up. I think they do not office hours, but they have time in between classes. And I think they even have breaks during the class where students are working independently that you can connect with the teacher. So Yvonne, if you want to email me, I could specifically look up for your teacher, for your student's teacher, and help you with that if needed.
And I'll just chime in. I'm in a lot
Please.
of classrooms, and oftentimes between the lessons in that little break time, and there's a lot of conversation happening. Students hang around, they ask me questions. And our elementary teachers are definitely building that time in. So even though it's not set for the high school, because that is for more mature student, our elementary kids or elementary teachers are welcoming that interaction time.
Yvonne, I'll email you. I'll make a note right now and connect with you tomorrow to help you for sure. Well, thank you so much. We're almost out of time, but there's definitely, if you have more questions, post them. We'll stick around for another couple minutes, but just thank you all so much for attending. And to our panelists, you guys are amazing. This was such a great experience. And I hope this will be a valuable resource for other people that watch in the future. And Carla, thank you for joining us. I think that was perfect to have you demo the math session for us. And students and teachers, students and parents, we encourage you to check out paper.co. It is such a valuable resource. We have that through June, I think, is our contract, and we're just evaluating it to see if we'll keep it around next year based on use. So if you're not using it, start using it now to drive up those numbers, because that'll really help us make the decision about whether we keep it or not.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Just very quickly, I added on the chat the email address that parents can reach us should they have any questions or comments about how their students will use paper. So again, we'll be happy to provide you assistance through there, but we're very excited to already have students, joining us in the platform. Our tutors do get very excited to get the questions. So we look forward to having many more.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Yvonne, for telling me about Nicole. That's great. All right, everyone. Well, have a wonderful night. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for that feedback, Rachel. That's great. And everyone have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you at the next session. If you have ideas for future sessions, or if there's topics that you feel like you need more help on, please reach out. We will work to partner with you on those for sure. All right, everyone, have a wonderful night, and thank you again.